Good evening. Again, we'll start with the short motivations. And before that, we can try to quiet our mind by focusing on breath for a few moments. Then we can think the purpose of my life is to liberate all sentient beings from suffering and cause of suffering. And to help them and guide them to lead to ultimate happiness of full enlightenment. And in order to do that, I myself need to be free from all the negativities, obscurations, and develop all the positive qualities. Therefore, I must obtain fully awakened state as soon as possible. And to achieve fully enlightened state, one must fully develop unconditional, limitless loving kindness, compassion, both by mind and wisdom. And for that, we need to practice, meditate correctly, continuously. And for that, we must be reminded of those practices all the time, so that they're innocent, that are going to listen to the teachings and try to implement, integrate as much as possible in our everyday life. Those which can be integrated now, try to integrate now. Some of the practice which are beyond our capacity at the moment, we inspire them to practice in the future. Okay.
Page 73. Let us do the first one. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings between, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge.
When all supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you faced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With the pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds. We know the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme sun, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the pure who merits with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to dustness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from the attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualifying the realization, who are devoted to moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects. To the supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform all the perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. The star and visual aberration, a flame of lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits make sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the flow of faults, and be delivered from the star's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death.
I prostrate
To the Arya people then, thus did I hear one time the Bhagavan was dwelling in the midst of Lotus Mountain, Indra, together with a great community of monks and great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration of the categories of phenomena of perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection and wisdom, and beheld those 5 aggregate also envy of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of a lineage friend who wish to practice activities of profound perfection or wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Buddha. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activity of profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this. Correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also empty of inherent. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness not other than form. Form is also none other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compulsion, factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena emptiness without characteristic. Unproduced, unseen, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no eye element, so on up to, including no mind element, and no mental process. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, so on up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Buddha, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattva rely on himself in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who ground the three times also manifested completely again with unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that totally pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tata Om Gate Gate Kala Gate Parasamgate Bodhisattva. Buddha, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the Dinesh, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you are individual. Even the Tathagata rejoiced. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shadipati Buddha, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding the entirety, along with the women of God, humans, Asuras, and others, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan.
Page 81, sense of dispelling ignorance. I
And those surrounding sentient beings go for refuge to the Buddha, go for refuge to the Lama, go for refuge to the Sangha. We prostrate to the great Mother Prasna Paramita, surrounded by the old children and the assemblies of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and direction. By depending on my prostration to all of you, may these words of truth be actualized. In the past, they were King Indra, dispelled the Maras, by reflecting on the profound meaning of wisdom gone beyond, and reciting the profound words in daily recitation. In that same way, I also reflect on the profound meaning of Great Mother Prasna Paramita, and recite the profound words in daily recitation. May all the diseases, fear, possessions, bad conditions, all the negative directions, that which happens due to the past karma and immediate conditions, may all this be dispelled. May it become non-existent. May it be pacified.
Page 98, the short mandala offering, maybe at the bottom of 97 and some of the others. Refuge in bodhicitta, one's in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge and still I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Sangha. By my merits I create through listening to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Sherab Sangye Shanam La Shanju Padu Dhammi Katsuchin Yagi Churcha Give Sonamji Chola Penche Sangye Duvar Sangye Sherab Sangye Shanam La Shanju Padu Dhammi Katsuchin Yagi Churcha Give Sonamji
So I think last week we went through where Lama Tsongkhapa explained about how death could come, due to completion of the karma of the lifespan, or due to, even though the karma is not finished, due to lack of conditions, immediate conditions, or either due to not being able to avoid the obstacles, immediate obstacles. Due to that, then the life could end on the basis of those three different sources. And then also, I think we went when at the time of death, the mind at the time of death, about did with all of that. So I think we might have explained, at the time of death, we could die with virtuous positive mind, or non-virtuous negative mind, or neutral mind, three, and especially when we talk about that, that is talking about during the growth, when there is still growth mind, before the clinically declared death. Once growth mind ceases, and then when we go to three subtle mind and more subtle mind, then for ordinary being is mostly neutral mind, that clear light mind, and the subtle mind is more neutral. Only the highly practitioner can kind of transform and use it to a virtuous way, or more so ordinary is more neutral. But before that, when you see before the growth mind ceases, then that is where people could die with totally different state of mind, and it's very important to die with a positive mind. It's very important. If we can die with a positive mind, there's much more higher chance to have a higher rebirth. And if we have a strong negative mind at the time of death, there's more stronger chance to have an unfortunate rebirth. And so therefore, it's important to die with a positive mind. If someone has practiced throughout their life, at the time of death, it might not be so difficult for them to have positive mind, whether someone can reflect, contemplate on refuge and taking refuge, or remembering any of the deities or the gurus, having a strong, doing guru yogas, for example, or meditation on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, meditation on emptiness, and on top of that, for those who have a more familiarity with a certain practice of tantra, generation stages or completion stages. So there are any kind of those different positive mind that we can develop, then definitely One, at the time of death, we will find more peace. We will find more peace. Our mind will be more peaceful, and also with that positive mind, then definitely we will have a better chance. Um, and if someone, is unable to do by themselves, then people around who are helping them can help them to remind, guide, and remind them through the practice. And so if they are unable to follow by themselves because their mind is too weak, unable to concentrate, then whoever is there, by knowing some of their practice, if you know some of their practice, then you can kind of could help them um, to generate a positive mind. Um, and of course, if we have certain kind of death, then if possible, someone can do poa, recite loud prayers in their, there, and so those practice um, certain practice. The important is very important to have positive mind, to be able to die with positive mind. If not, at least with a calm mind. You know. And so one of the things is that we have to understand the individuals. If someone is trying to help them and not do something that disturb their mind, even though you might think that is the best, but if it's going to disturb their mind, I think maybe it's not the best idea. That is what His Holiness advises also always that, we don't want to disturb their mind. If they have certain resistance to certain prayers, certain practice, then we should be very aware of that, mindful of that, and not trying to impose something just because you believe it is good for them. Because then, if you disturb their mind, then if they die with that kind of frustration, anger, and disturbance of mind, then I think so. Those are the certain things that yeah, that's important. And I think another thing, is important for us when we get a little bit discomfort in our life, nowadays, small discomfort, sometimes due to certain physical health issue, sometimes due to certain cold, too hot, different circumstances, little bit discomfort. When we are that discomfort, we try to apply something positive mind towards that, and how can we utilize that discomfort to cultivate something positive mind. So if we start doing now, then we get used to doing that. Your mind is used to it, familiar with that practice. And when death comes, because at the time of death, we cannot have a lot of physical pains. And you might be overwhelmed by those physical pains. And you don't have a strong practice which you are familiar with that, then it might be difficult to concentrate. Your mind become your mind is uh, too conscious of the pain. So your mind keep on going to pain instead of being able to concentrate on something positive, virtues. So if we start learning, at the moment our mind is not as weak, our mind is still quite strong, clear, and this discomfort is not so much. There is little bit of discomfort, so we have to learn to do that. And so then getting used to that kind of practice, and then even at the time of that, even if there's a big discomfort physically and different things, sometimes maybe at time of time you feel too cold, sometimes due to certain dissolutions of the elements, sometimes people feel extremely hot, sometimes people feel extremely cold. Those kind of discomfort arises. There's pain here and there, uncomfortable with all this, sometimes with all these different machines, all of that, and then that could distract and disturb your mind. But if we learn now how to deal with that, then we started to become more familiar with how to still keep our mind positive, calm, and how to utilize that discomfort into something positive. And then at the time of that, even it happens like that, where we will be able to deal with that. If we cannot deal with now, it will be very hard to be able to do at that time. When your mind is much more weak, physically much more challenging. And so, yeah. So those are the certain things that, in relation to um, trying to cultivate positive state of mind at time of death. Mm. 110, which
Their parents correspond
for those who have created
with the one before their appearances.
their appearances. Okay, okay. Page number 110, where they had the appearances and three appearances. I think that, and so according to our practice and state of mind, there could be a different appearance, visions, uh, sensation, feelings as a sign of that, and so for their for those who have created virtues, in your life, you have created a lot of virtues, and at the time of death, you can have some virtues, and then it is like going from thick darkness to light. You have some kind of um, feeling, sensation, as like that, going from darkness to light. Less fear. In our life, normally when we relate with darkness, is more fear. When we relate with light, it's less fear, because we can see. And so that at the time of death, various pleasant dream, and then as you could have a visions, certain visions, like a dream, form appear to them, positive, pleasant feeling, pleasant visions, seeing a very beautiful um, place, um, or even beings, whether it's your guru, your deities, and pleasant kind of form that make your mind more ease, joyful. And so when you have that kind of thing, then they die happily. So they are able to die more peacefully, more happily, less fearful. And even the interruptions of life is of very minor severity, and so also, mm, when your body is trying to decay and disintegrate from the life, and then it is not so, um, the pain and the suffering is not so strong. And then for those who have created non-virtues, so for those who have more stronger non-virtues, in their life, very strong non-virtuous actions, you know, then it's like from going from light to the thick darkness, you know. So they feel is more from going from light to darkness. And so when you have that kind of feelings, sensations, visions, then people started to feel more scared, more fearful of that. Mm. And yeah, and then at the time of death, various dream-like repulsive form appear to them, and so then unpleasant, you know, they could have a visions, or they could have an appearance in their mind, like a dream, they're unpleasant, and that make them their mind kind of fearful, um, unpleasant, um, disturbed, agitated, and so forth, And due to that intense feeling, pain arises, And because of that, when you see, then your mind is, um, due to fear and all that, then your mind is not so calm and peaceful, and then your mind is more intense pain. And the interruption in life is also very severe, and then um, that become much more stronger, the suffering and the pain of being separated and decaying of your life um, become much more feel much more stronger. Um, mm. so that is due to certain, that happens due to certain change in the elements, certain change in the elements. Mm, mm. You hear sometimes people when they die, that people sometimes they say, they see rainbow light like that, and then some people they see scary things, they see scary things, and so those are certain kind of signs of uh, their mind, projection and signs of their mind, virtuous mind, non-virtuous mind, and that. In all birthplace, except for the gods and hell beings, there is an interruption of the life, due to um, the disturbance in the elements, strong elements of the disturbance. You know, then they are strong with that. In those who have unspecific minds, so more, which means neutral minds, neither virtuous, neither non-virtuous. The two, happiness and suffering, that are explained, do not arise. So when they are more neutral stated, neither they have such a strong sense of feeling or vision, seeing or pleasant. Therefore, um, when you see that appearances, visions, and when you feel that way, then there's more pleasant feeling. Neither such pleasant feeling is there when you, due to strong non-virtuous actions in the mind, when you have an unpleasant feeling, scary, then there's a fear, and due to that there's suffering. Neither such there at that time. Um, what mind become manifest at the time? At the time of death, whichever mind, virtuous or non-virtuous, is more familiar, become manifest. So normally speaking, whatever our mind is more stronger in our life, if you're if you have very stronger virtuous mind, or someone has very stronger non-virtuous mind, whatever is stronger, that is more likely to manifest at that time, you know. And that we can see in our everyday life, if someone has a very strong practice, when something bad happens, they can immediately kind of relate with virtuous mind. And then for some people, when bad things happen, they freak out and doesn't they really kind of lose their mind. So then when something that happened, it would happen like that, those that is what most likely to manifest. And same thing at the time of death, when sort of things, unknown things are happening, you know, everything seems to going uh, abnormal, when all these your sense perceptions become more weak, less clear, when body element become decay, disintegrated, and all of that, and then either it disturbs your mind if that's what, if you don't know how to deal with in normal life, in normally where it can disturb easily, and for those who are practice that can increase their practice. Like some of the practitioners, when difficult things happen in their life, their practice becomes more stronger. That becomes source for their practice to grow, increase their practice. For some, it kind of totally kind of destroy people, they cannot come devastated, overwhelmed by that, they are unable to come out of that. So it had different effect on different people, same situations. At the same time, similarly, if we have a strong practice and strong virtuous practice, then it can even increase the state of our practice and the virtuous mind. And and so whichever is more familiar, that will manifest first. Yeah. Mm. Similarly, for example, when things does not go so well, in our life, there's two immediate kind of reaction we could have. One is blame others, immediately blame and be very upset and angry. Or another is just, oh, it's my karma. I'm glad that I'm experiencing the result of karma. Therefore, I'm purifying, clearing those negative karma, and feeling joy in that. Two reactions, that could have according to different practitioners, according to their level of practitioners. And similarly, if you have that kind of response, someone, when things go wrong, they are able to immediately see, oh, it's my karma, and you stop blaming others, instead saying, oh, it's karma ripening. Not only karma ripening, in some cases, they see it positive. By ripening of the karma, that you are purifying incredible amount of negative karma that you don't have experience in the future. You are clearing it. So then there is even joy in that, not only not only just seeing that I'm experiencing a karmic result, but actually joy in that for some practitioner. And so if we can do that, even in the time of death, all this, sometimes we are confused, different things happening, and we are not. And so then again, just because of such a strong practice, we can be able to apply immediately like that. So, whereas other minds do not subsequently operate, the other minds such as non-virtuous mind. Therefore, if they are equally familiar, virtuous and non-virtuous equally familiar, same equal, and that which is recalled force will manifest. So then, which we will remember first will be manifested first. I think that these are, whereas others do not subsequently operate. And I think this is according to the Vasubandhu's, Abhidhamma koshas that you find those explanations. And yeah, at the time at the time of death, when the mind becomes subtle, virtuous and non-virtuous mind come to stop and become unspecific mind, which I already told, when the gross mind cease, all the virtuous, non-virtuous mind are more gross mind, and that time it cease. And then when you go to the mind of subtle white visions, red visions, dark visions, they are neutral, and the clear light mind is neutral. And for some practitioners, due to their strong practice, they can transform into virtue, but otherwise it's more neutral. So at the time of the dead, as long as the state of unclear perceptions, that's not been reached, the attachment to the self, slowly your mind becomes, as your mind, virtuous and non-virtuous mind, all this gross mind started to cease, then your mind becomes less and less clear, So then you have perceptions, and then we go to the subtle mind. So before that, while you are still kind of gross mind is still there, and still there is some certain level of clarity. The attachment to the self, you know, that they have long been familiar with before all. But because we have so strong attachment to the self in our everyday life, especially like, just like when we feel we are in danger, when we feel threatened by life, we have very strong attachments of, to the self that, you know, that is where a strong fear arises. When there is threatening to our life, there is a very strong fear because there's a sense of that danger to I or me, because we are so strongly attached to it, very strong. And because of that, mm, and then after that, because, under the influence of attachment, because there is such a strong attachment to self, strong attachment, clinging and grasping to the self, then thought arises, I'm becoming non-existent, you know, and then fear arises. Mm, mm, uh, Then you take joy in the body. So then, you try to cling on the body, because you don't want to lose it, you know. You have fear of losing it. And so therefore you strongly cling and grasp to your body because you don't want to lose it, you know. And that craving, that attachment acts as the conditions to activate, as we talked before, the throwing karma, to have the next rebirth, craving and grasping. And through the craving and grasping, the existence, and then the intermediate stage, and then the next life. And so um, that is how the craving and grasping comes at that time, and activate that, because then we have a fear of losing, and then we get attached to that body, not wanting life, the body and the life, and not wanting to lose it. So that craving act, and then that becomes stronger and grasping. And then when that, with the craving and grasping, the throwing karma is fully activated, and it is existence, or becoming, Mm. And that is the cause for intermediate state to come about. And so due to the craving and grasping, then the 10 becoming existing produce fully activated. And then next, then when your consciousness leaves the body, then intermediate state is produced at the same, equally at the same time. The moment the consciousness leaves the body, in that very moment, the intermediate state is produced. Then it will come later, similarly. While attachment to self also arises in the stream, inter and once returner, they analyze it with wisdom and abandon it, rather than acquiescing, uh, acquiescing, acquiescence in it. Just like, for instance, a strong person beating someone weak, I think it is overwhelming, the stronger power overwhelming the smaller powers. And so here is talking about, in terms of when we talk about the path to liberation, nirvana, then there are eight kind of arhat, not arhat, aryas, noble beings, and so there is string inter, one's returning, no returning, and arhat, and then there's someone who is entering into the stream, stream um, stream enter, and then there's one who is engaged in the enter, the one's returner, there's one engaged, entered into the non-returner, and there's one who is engaged in the arhat. So totally there's 8 states, so he's talking about those states, and I think we don't need to go so deeper. It's more technicals of those. So in chasing the first two, even though they have that attachment to self, but because they have realization of emptiness, due to that wisdom, they don't give themselves to that delusion. They kind of apply the antidote to overcome that attachments. And so therefore, that overwhelm that attachments, and so the attachment cannot manifest strongly. In non-returners, the attachment to self does not arise. And of course, arhat, there is no attachment. And so, in terms of withdrawing the heat, when someone dies, so here the third, in those who have created non-virtues, I don't know how accurate those are, exactly, but definitely they are based on certain teachings, and definitely there is whether it is accurate to everyone, or maybe it's like generally speaking, that is how it happens. Sometimes certain teachings are more kind of general, in average, most happen like, but then, but I'm not 100% sure. But in a way, in those who have created non-virtues, the heat first withdraw from the upper part of your body, of the corpse, and dissipate down to the heart. And when we talk about heart here, we are not necessarily talking about this physical heart itself. Okay. One is talking about the center of the body. When we talk about heart, we are talking about the center, more center of that. Sometimes we will talk about in the Tantra, when they talk about the heart and is the basis where the consciousness lives. It is also psychologist. It's not necessarily physical. It's most psychological. And there is sudden energies. So it doesn't refer to the physical heart itself. If that is that heart, then there is a lot of contradictions. When there is a transplant of the heart, then your conscious and mind also go there. Do you get it? If it is if it's the heart, that is the location where your mind enter the very beginning and stay until that die, then your mind will be also when heart is transplanted, it will be transplanted. And so, and also when we talk about heart and then opening of the heart channels, and with all this, the right and left channels, central channels, we are not talking about something very physical that we can actually operate and see it, In those who have created virtues, the heat withdraw from the lower part of the corpse and dissipates up to the heart. In both cases, even though that might be the fact in reality, but sometimes I don't know whether these are. Sometimes it only makes things worse when you know that, and then we started to assume, oh, he's a negative person, because, and then sometimes you might freak out, I don't know. sometimes knowing the reality can be yeah, might be also fearful, painful as well, because sometimes it's hard for us to accept, you know. Um, so anyway, but I think um, in both cases, the consciousness transfers from the heart. So when the consciousness leaves the body, okay, in both cases, whether it withdraw from the top or from the lower, but at the end, when the consciousness leave the body, it leaves from the center of the heart. That into which consciousness first enter in the middle of mixture of semen and blood transform into the heart. So it says that at the very beginning, in that again center of the dead body, then there is this very 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 fine um, energies of the semen and blood, and in the between them is like it says like two half cut, two of the um, half of the pea, like green peas or dal, like that too. And, yeah, and in the middle of that, there is consciousness. That is sometimes you find where it eventually transfers from is that very place it first enter into. Okay. Mm. Fourth, from the place consciousness transfer from, as explained above, from the heart center. The dead and intermediate state are accomplished without a break, just like the swing of the armature of the scale. So just as when the scale, when once you put something, it goes up. In the same time, the very moment the consciousness leaves the body, that very moment, the intermediate state, the pardo is being produced. Pardo is okay. The intermediate state beings, the pardo intermediate state being also has complete. So in terms of that, due to karma, they have all the five sense powers. In human, we can have damage to some of the, when you are born, you could be born with some kind of faulty senses. But in them, due to certain, that they have all this sense power, and such as eyes, knows the five senses, or six senses with the mind, and has the body aspect of whatever being it will be born as. So if you are going to be born as a human being, the intermediate states, the figure, the shape of that, it will be like human beings. If you are going to be born as animals, then the shape of the intermediate state will be more like animals. So that is, and I think I don't know, in one of the, if I remember, in one it says the shape of small human beings, a child, something like that. They say. Now, as long as it did not take the birth, its eye is flawless, like the divine eye. You know, so as long as they are alive, so the divine eyes is someone through your meditation, someone can develop, that where you can see very far away like that. And its body is also unobstructed as the thought possessed by magical powers. Um, so the body is not like a physical body like us, gross physical body, but it's more like a very light body, and because like a rainbow light body. Because of that, then they can enter all the walls and everything. Nothing can obstruct them, you know. So the intermediate state can travel very fast from one to. It's like the moment your thought is there, moment your body is almost there, because they don't depend on this kind of. Um, so that is intermediate stage, and that they are able to travel without any obstructions by walls and so forth. It is seen by intermediate state being of similar type and by flawless divine eyes arising from the meditation. And those intermediate states, pardon, among themselves they can see each other's, And then someone through meditation who have developed a divine eye, then they can see it. But I think also it seems to some people, due to, I don't know, to something in their mind, they are able to see spirit, and some others, I don't know if all of them are, some of them could be intermediate state, some of them might be non-intermediate state. But like certain people have certain eye to see things where normal people cannot see, and I don't know exactly what is the main cause of that.